The young man was thrown into the fast travel world because of suicide. His soul will enter the bodies of 12 people on the verge of death, experiencing death over and over again. If he wants to live a good life, he must help the hosts avoid their death dates. This is the latest Korean drama, Death's Game. 7 years ago, the male lead Choy EJ had just entered society. Not only did he have a beautiful girlfriend Jisoo, but he also successfully entered the final interview of a large corporation. His future looked bright. Little did he know, he had a car accident on his way to the interview. A living person died right in front of him. EJ's condition was severely affected. He was not admitted to his ideal position. The following 7 years were full of misfortune. EJ failed in finding jobs and was burdened with a high student loan. Then, the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world. He had to keep doing part-time jobs just to earn money, while others accumulated work experience. He couldn't even secure a contract job, as he watched his peers marry and settle down. Only EJ remained stagnant while others moved forward. He sent out hundreds of resumes. Finally, he managed to get another final interview with Taikang Group. The interviewer was contemptuous of his resume, but there was one senior executive with long hair. He believed EJ was hard in work and had perseverance. EJ received a call from a friend just a few minutes after he was happy. It turned out that his friend had persuaded him to invest, but that person was involved in a stock manipulation scam. The money that EJ had invested was taken away, and the person responsible fled. Although he promptly reported the case to the police, the hope of recovering the money was slim. All of EJ's savings were invested. Now he is left with nothing. How embarrassed to propose to Jisoo. EJ wanted to visit his girlfriend, but he saw her getting out of a man's car. She was holding a large bouquet of flowers. She looked very happy. Jisoo noticed EJ on the street. She handed him an envelope, urging him to quit his part-time job and focus on job interviews. EJ's self-esteem was shattered. He felt exhausted both mentally and physically. He felt unworthy of Jisoo, who came from a privileged background. He decided to break up. EJ returned the rental room in pouring rain, only to find his belongings had been thrown out. The landlord had left a note at the door, stating that new tenants would arrive in 2 days. The deposit would be used to cover the overdue rent. The heavy rain soaked EJ's computer, and extinguished his will to keep going. The next morning, Taikang sent another message of failed interview. EJ didn't know the meaning of living. Death seemed simple. He ultimately put an end to his failed life. But something strange happened. EJ woke up in an unfamiliar body, followed by the appearance of a mysterious woman. She took off her sunglasses and stared at EJ. In the next second, the environment around the two of them suddenly changed. EJ was pulled into the underworld. It turned out that the woman was the embodiment of death. Let's call her the Death. The Death was angered by EJ's casual attitude towards death. She planned to teach this guy a lesson. She brought EJ to the edge of a cliff, only to see towering cliffs made of bones. The raging sea of blood was filled with dead bodies.
날 모욕한 너는 벌을 받게 될 거야.
The bones sensed the scent of human body and rushed towards EJ eagerly, until they swallowed him up. In the next second, EJ woke up in a new body. He asked the Death how he should be punished.
영혼은 곧 죽을 12명의 육체로 들어가게 돼. 그리고 어떤 몸으로 깨어나든 무조건 죽게 된다.
If EJ could save others from death with the body, he could live the rest of his life in that body. After the Death finished speaking, she left the plane. Immediately, the entire cabin shook violently. EJ thought he was about to die and quickly put on a life jacket, but it turned out to be normal turbulence. He looked around the cabin and suddenly realized it was a private plane, and it was filled with luxury goods everywhere. Suddenly, a crystal appeared in the air. Inside it were the memories and abilities of the original owner. The owner of this body was named Park Jin-tae. He was the second son of the chairman of Taikang Group. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. The long-haired interviewer who appeared earlier was Jin-tae's older brother. The two brothers had always been in competition since childhood. Fortunately, Jin-tae was smarter than his brother and was more favored by their father. Taikang Group would eventually belong to him. These memories belonged to the original owner. A flurry of information flooded into EJ's mind. He sighed, realizing that he was really lucky. Now he was going to rise from the ashes like a phoenix. Just as he finished speaking, the left engine of the plane caught fire. EJ hurriedly ran back to his seat and fastened his seatbelt. In the next second, a hole opened up in the cabin. The unlucky flight attendant died. As the saying goes, you can hardly stay longer when the god is calling on you. EJ's soul returned to the underworld. The death's cold voice echoed. You have 11 chances left. After saying that, she loaded 11 bullets into the gun. As long as she fired a shot at EJ, everything would start anew. EJ was curious about what would happen if he ran out of chances, and still couldn't survive. What would he do? The death chuckled. What else can you do but go to hell? The death showed some kindness, and prepared to give EJ a tour of hell. EJ was completely dumbfounded by this. The death explained that it was inevitable. Suicides can only go to hell after death, if you can resurrect through the remaining chances, and live an honest and kind life. Of course, you won't be thrown into hell. EJ quickly regained consciousness from a new body. This time, he was an extreme sports enthusiast. The memory crystal drilled into EJ's mind, and the information about the original owner appeared. Name, Song Jae-sub. Age, 38. He holds for Guinness World Records. He loves all kinds of dangerous extreme sports. Today he is going to challenge base jumping without a parachute. He will jump from 8,000 feet in the air and land accurately in a preset safety net. If he succeeds in this challenge, Jae-sub can take away 3 billion Korean won in cash from sponsors. Because the crystal carries the original owner's abilities, EJ quickly adapts to the high-altitude environment. He adjusts his balance and looks for the landing point, then dives down like an arrow departing from the string. Obviously, this daredevil did not succeed, but the TV ratings surged to 30%. In the end, the winner is still the evil capitalist. As expected, EJ wakes up in the underworld again. He complains to the death in dissatisfaction. These two deaths are either a plane crash or waking up in midair. The difficulty is too high. The death reminds EJ that these 12 resurrections are not opportunities but punishments for experiencing death. EJ can't understand. He didn't harm anyone with his suicide. Is it necessary to accept such a severe punishment? A car accident occurs on the road. The victim's belongings are scattered on the ground. Next to the wallet is a photo of EJ. Based on the incoming call on the phone during his suicide, it is likely that this woman is EJ's mother. EJ still insists on the innocence of suicide. The death decides to shoot him in the head, helping EJ start his third rebirth. Unexpectedly, this time he came to a school campus. The male classmates in the class are watching Jae-sub's skydiving video. Even though the man died, he still laughs so happily. EJ plans to teach this guy a lesson. Unexpectedly, the memory crystal suddenly appears. The original owner's name is Kwon Hyuk-soo. Now he is only 17 years old. His father passed away when he was 5 years old. His mother supported the family alone. She works hard day and night. Hyuk-soo knows that he should study hard to repay his mother's nurturing grace. But he is very afraid of going to school, because his classmates in the class have been bullying him. Jin Sang, who was watching the skydiving video just now, is the leader of the bullying group. Hyuk-soo doesn't want to make his mother worried, so he can only grit his teeth and pretend to be indifferent. But the hellish school life even makes him feel mentally disturbed. Seeing the bullies is like seeing demons. Hyuk-soo doesn't want to continue this kind of life. He warns Jin Sang, "If you bully me again, I will jump from the rooftop of the school." Jin Sang takes Hyuk-soo's words as a joke. He hardly realizes that Hyuk-soo is really standing on the rooftop, and at the moment of near-death, EJ possesses him. EJ suddenly realizes that if Hyuk-soo's death is due to suicide, then living well would be a solution. This mission is too easy. EJ is just enjoying himself foolishly. Jin Sang brings his gang to bully Hyuk-soo again. EJ has lived for over 30 years. How could he be bullied by high school students? He picks up a chair and smashes it towards Jin Sang, taking the opportunity to vent his anger on these bastards. Unfortunately, his triumph lasts only 3 seconds. The toughest guy among Jin Sang's group appears. Monk overwhelms EJ without any resistance. Jin Sang also steps forward to show off and save face. As soon as the class ends, Jin Sang drags EJ to the gymnasium and brutally beats him. Monk can't bear to see it and tries to intervene, but he receives a slap from Jin Sang instead. EJ looks confused and bewildered. Why is Monk so afraid of him though he's so tough? It seems that Jin Sang is going to continue bully. Fortunately, the class bell appears in time. Jin Sang's attitude changes dramatically in front of the goddess. He hurriedly follows her like a lapdog. EJ also escapes unscathed because of this. He returns home with a dejected and downcast expression. The house is decorated simply but warmly. The refrigerator is covered with Hyuksu's mother's nagging notes. Between the lines is love for son. EJ can't help reminding of his own mother. He was also raised by a single mother. Just as EJ is feeling sad, Hyuksu's mother returns. She prepares a table full of dishes, and she takes care of her son in every detail. Through Hyuksu's mother, EJ sees his own mother. How could his death not have hurt others? EJ wants to call his mother, but suddenly, a blackmail message from Jin Sang pops up. It brings EJ back to reality in an instant. He needs to survive first before thinking about anything else. EJ decides to draw Monk over to his side first, to undermine Jin Sang. EJ starts praising him, asking why Monk doesn't overthrow Jin Sang and become the leader. Even though Monk is tough, he's still a high school student. Indeed, he couldn't help but reveal the hidden truth. Actually, Jin Sang has a powerful backer. That person is a senior from the 3rd grade, Sung Sub. He's considered the best fighter in this area. Jin Sang can only act arrogantly and tyrannically because of the person he's associating with. Upon hearing this, EJ feels disheartened. Whether it's in society or at school, background and factional issues are always unavoidable. But when all is said and done, eating is the most important. EJ is just praising the good school food, but he is forcibly pushed into the bowl by Jin Sang. He can't tolerate it. He decisively pours noodles over Jin Sang's head, then quickly slips away. Jin Sang loses face in front of the entire schoolmate. He immediately sends Monk to catch EJ, but Monk also makes him embarrass in public. It turns out that EJ privately approached Monk, and told him that he had a way to overthrow Jin Sang. However, Monk couldn't intervene. Jin Sang had already gone to complain to his elder brother. Upon hearing this, Sung Sub immediately brings people to get even with Hyuksu. Monk sees Hyuksu still engrossed in reading webtoon. Although he doesn't know EJ's plan, Sung Sub has already entered the classroom. He walks straight towards Monk, asking if he's the one who threw noodles at Jin Sang. Monk quickly explains that he didn't do anything. Jin Sang also pointed at Hyuksu. Sung Sub looked at him with disdain. Even his followers felt embarrassed. We came all the way to the lower grades. We are not going to teach a little dwarf like this a lesson. Typically, troublemaking students have a certain reputation. They enjoy beating up guys like Monk, but they wouldn't touch Hyuksu. EJ steps forward to provoke Jin Sang, saying, "If you have any problems, come directly to me. Besides, you don't have any reinforcements." Monk takes over Jin Sang's position and becomes the leader. As the saying goes, it's difficult to go from luxury to frugality. Jin Sang becomes our underdog, hated by everyone. The goddess is also taken away by Sung Sub. He can't accept this loss. He blames all the faults on EJ. Since he can't win face to face, Jin Sang resorts to sneaky ambushes against EJ. He goes crazy and hits him with a brick. EJ underestimated the evil of human nature. Once again, the mission fails. The death watches with relish.
기대해. 앞으로 죽음의 고통이 더 커질 테니까.
After a gunshot, the 4th life begins. As soon as EJ opens his eyes, he realizes his hands and feet are tied, and there's a black bag over his head. Some strong gangster come over and hold him down, pouring water onto the black cloth covering his mouth and nose. EJ is choked and coughs incessantly. A man in suit opens his mouth calmly and asks where the woman and the money are. EJ naturally doesn't know anything, and one gangster rushes forward, intending to gouge out his eyes. EJ hurriedly says, "I'll confess everything, but you have to give me some time to think." The man in suit realizes EJ is playing a trick on him, so he picks up a hammer and ready to hit on EJ's head. The memory crystal finally appears in a crucial juncture, revealing the original owner, Lee Ju-hoon, 35 years old and known as the Jack of all trades. He belongs to the largest secret organization in the criminal syndicate. Joo-hoon's job is to solve any problem for clients, including killing, which is just routine for him. Joo-hoon falls in love with the boss's lover, Ah-mei, and he is unable to bear seeing her abused. He steals 10 billion Korean won hidden by the boss. He plans to escape with Ah-mei, but before he can meet up with his lover, he is caught by the boss's gangsters. The flashback ends here. EJ inherits Joo-hoon's skills through the crystal, swiftly eliminating the boss's gangsters in no time. This original owner truly led a life like in a movie, but these gangsters are easy to kill. EJ wants to recover the 10 billion Korean won and use the money to launder his identity and start anew. With his determination set, he enters the code at the door. In a result, he found himself on a large truck. With Joo-hoon's exceptional skills, EJ believes that this time he will definitely turn the tide. Meanwhile, the man in suit gets up and complains to the boss. The boss has connections in both legal and illegal circles. Soon, they found Joo-hoon's location through the police. Various forces sets out for action, aiming to kill Joo-hoon tonight. EJ rides a motorcycle at high speed, skillfully evading the pursuer's gunfire. A high-speed chase takes place in the Night of Seoul. The man in suit also follows in a truck. He makes a sharp turn, wedging the truck on the road. EJ immediately slows down upon seeing this. The pursuers react too slowly and crash into the front. EJ runs away like a lightning bolt cuts through the night sky. The boss offers a reward of 2 billion Korean won for his head. Therefore, the gangsters chase him relentlessly. EJ directly drives the motorcycle into a shopping mall. He gets surrounded by a convoy of vehicles. He simply accelerates and rushes into an elevator. He escapes to the rooftop without a break. Unexpectedly, the boss and his men rush towards him. Anyway, it's a life-or-death situation. EJ decisively rides the motorcycle towards the railing. Perhaps it wasn't his destiny to die. EJ unexpectedly falls into the swimming pool. Moreover, after the phone soaks in water, the tracking signal is lost as well. EJ gives a confident smile to the boss. Quickly, following the original host's memories, EJ searches for Ah-mei. The woman immediately throws herself into Joo-hoon's arms upon seeing the situation. EJ feels his heart racing. It turns out that Joo-hoon genuinely loves this woman. Ah-mei asks weakly where he hid the money. EJ points to the illuminated boat ahead and says the money is there. However, the next moment, Ah-mei shoots him in the head. EJ returns to the underworld once again. The death mocks him for being a fool. Little did she know that EJ had another plan. In fact, the original host didn't hide the money on the boat. EJ lied to Ah-mei. He initially intended to get rid of the woman and retrieve the money alone. Unexpectedly, she killed him for the money. Now, only EJ knows the location of the cash. He can definitely retrieve the money after resurrecting. But despite EJ's calculations, he didn't anticipate being reborn in prison this time. He is even locked in solitary confinement. Now, how can he retrieve the 10 billion won? Fortunately, his solitary confinement period has just ended. And from his cellmate, Xiao Bai, he learns that the original host will be released in 4 days. Xiao Bai will also be released in 4 days. He reminds EJ to control his temper and not provoke the psychopathic murderer again. Just as he says that, the murderer mentioned by Xiao Bai appears. EJ takes a look and realizes it's Jin Sang. Great, this is God's favor. He wants to take revenge on Hyuksa with his own hands. EJ immediately starts beating up Jin Sang. The cellmate quickly pulls him away and separates them. At that moment, the memory crystal appears. The original host's name is Choy EJ. Due to poor family conditions, he had to give up his passion for martial arts. His mother is constantly harassed by debt collectors. Tae-sang took the blame for a hit-and-run incident on behalf of a wealthy second-generation individual. To alleviate the burden on his family, he was still a minor when he entered prison, so he was able to receive probation instead of imprisonment. Unexpectedly, the woman who was hit died during the trial, and Tae-sang was sentenced to 2 years of imprisonment with a conviction for manslaughter. Tae-sang couldn't bear this injustice. He instructed his lawyer to inform the person responsible for the accident that if they couldn't offer 1 billion Korean won, he would appeal again after his release. Tae-sang had trained in martial arts for a few years, so he lived well in prison, until Jin Sang suddenly appeared. The level of the murderer in the homicide case was different. His cellmates in the same room avoided him cautiously, but EJ is not like Tae-sang. He knows that Jin Sang is just a coward. So, he asked his cellmate to guard the window, and went up to give Jin Sang a few slaps. Jin Sang didn't have any real fighting skills. He was just bluffing under the guise of being a murderer. Before EJ Jin could seriously engage, Jin Sang was already crying and begging for mercy. Who knew that EJ suddenly mentioned Hyuksu, even in front of the cellmates, exposing Jin Sang's true identity, saying that he killed the bullied classmate, and pretending to be someone he's not. The cellmates had been suffering from Jin Sang's bullying for a while, but as soon as they heard that he wasn't a murderer, they immediately swarmed and beat up Jin Sang, and this was just the beginning. The criminals treated Jin Sang as their punching bag. EJ didn't join the bullying gang, and didn't bother getting involved. He just wanted to get out of prison as soon as possible, but unexpected events happened quickly. The real culprit was afraid that EJ would extort him after his release, so he used his social relationship to have someone kill EJ in prison. Fortunately, EJ had Tai Sang's combat skills, so he didn't end up being killed by a few cellmates. EJ enjoyed using this body. The more he fights, the more he likes this body. Not only was he skilled, but he was also young. Soon, he defeated all the criminals present. At this moment, Xiaobai came back with a stick to help, but EJ had already resolved the problem. The day of his release was getting closer and closer. Xiaobai asked him if he regretted doing something wrong. EJ knew that it was referring to Tai Sang, but his mind went to the suicide incident. He had to admit that he regretted it. Living itself is an opportunity. There are 2 days left until his release, and Jin Sang plans to use the same tricks again, wanting to secretly kill EJ. But EJ has already suffered once. He never forgets to be wary of Jin Sang even when he sleeps. If it weren't for the fact that he still had to find that 10 billion, he really wanted to kill Jin Sang directly. EJ had a clever idea. He thought of a way to torment him. EJ pretended to be mysterious, claiming to be able to see Hyuksu's ghost, and he knew the details of their high school days, so he exaggerated the past events. Jin Sang was directly scared and urinary incontinence. EJ vented his anger, and left prison with a wonderful mood. Unexpectedly, the culprit's lawyer was waiting at the gate. He had to deal with this hidden danger, so EJ didn't ask for the 1 billion Korean won, and he promised to keep the secret buried. But in this world, who would spend 2 years in prison for a stranger without a reason? Will the culprit really let it go so easily? EJ couldn't be bothered with these questions. He went to the dock where the money was hidden, dug out the 10 billion from the dilapidated house across the river. EJ planned to flee with the money, but as a former convict, he couldn't easily deposit the money, and it would be difficult to move around with so much cash. EJ couldn't decide for a moment, and at that moment, Tai Sang's mother called. EJ wanted to ignore it at first, but in the end, he answered the call. Tai Sang's mother apologized to her son, asking him to come home quickly. EJ couldn't help reminding of his own mother, and burst into tears on the spot. Since he wants to borrow the body of someone else, he can't let Tai Sang's mother sacrifice in vain. EJ withdrew enough cash, prepared to give it to Tai Sang's mother when he returned, and then stored the remaining money in a temporary storage locker, preparing to leave with the money in 4 days. Unexpectedly, as soon as EJ returned to the alley near Tai Sang's home, he was stabbed by an uncle, who turned out to be a relative of the deceased in the car accident, wanting to kill the culprit for his daughter's revenge. EJ immediately apologized, and explained to the uncle that he was not the culprit. Just as they were talking, the sound of a dog barking came from nearby. The uncle was afraid of being discovered and quickly left. Unexpectedly, the person who came was Xiaobai. EJ just breathed a sigh of relief, but Xiaobai's expression suddenly turned cold. It turned out that on that day, when he came back with a stick, it wasn't to help EJ, but to kill him and collect the bounty. Once again, EJ's life was ruined because of money. At this moment, Tai Sang's mother called, but EJ didn't have a chance to answer. He woke up from the underworld, feeling heartbroken and unbearable, but the storage locker had a 4-day deadline. EJ hurriedly entered the next life, but the death played a joke on him. In this lifetime, EJ is a little baby, and he has a mother with bipolar disorder, and an irresponsible father. The couple fed the baby expired canned food, and smoked indoors casually. After the police received a report from the children's hospital, they came to verify if the couple was abusing the child, but the master of the house, Jin, works at a welfare institution, and he and his wife, Xiao Mai, are good at acting well. The police didn't think they seemed like bad people, so they didn't check the baby's condition. EJ tried to cry loudly to attract attention, but the police still left. Xiao Mai was furious and had nowhere to vent her anger, so she picked up the child and threw him to the ground. She blamed her son for the hardships in her life, and covered EJ's face with a pillow. This time, the hazy reincarnation ended abruptly. EJ's eye was extremely angry, and shouted how there could be such parents in the world. The death couldn't help but taunt EJ, saying that he took parental love for granted. After the death finished speaking, he sent EJ on his way. When Arjun woke up and checked the time, he realized that the storage locker would expire in 15 minutes. He rushed to the subway station at full speed, and ran to the temporary storage locker in one breath, successfully retrieving the bag. EJ was about to leave. He caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. This time, he was unexpectedly reincarnated into a handsome guy. Soon after, the memory crystal appeared, and he learned that the original owner's name was Jang Gun-woo, 24 years old, and he was a very famous fashion model. From his student days, he was highly popular due to his exceptional appearance. As he grew up, it was natural for him to rely on his look to make a career. In simple terms, he had wealth, look, and fame. EJ returned to the original owner's residence. He saw a newspaper on the table. The parents who abused their child had already been arrested. He finally felt somewhat relieved. Just then, the original owner's phone rang. His friend invited Gun-woo to go to a bar and attended a party. Upon hearing this, EJ gladly went there. Instead of worrying about how to die all day, he decided to enjoy himself to the fullest. Gun-woo's body couldn't handle alcohol. EJ felt dizzy and disoriented after a few drinks. His friend came over and advised him to have some food. The host of the party was the CEO of Taikang Corporation. If he could gain his appreciation, there would be benefits to reap. Isn't Taikang Corporation the company of the first original owner, Jin Tai? However, he died in a plane crash, and his brother Tai Woo inherited the company. EJ felt like he was familiar, but couldn't recall immediately. The next day, while still hungover, he was pulled up by a man. It turned out that the original owner had promised his friend to take care of his cafe while he traveled to the United States, and help manage his coffee shop. EJ went to the store with his friend to familiar with the surroundings, thinking secretly that once his friend left, he would take the money and leave this place. Little did he know an unexpected person appeared. It was Jisoo, whom he hadn't seen in a long time. EJ looked at his former lover, and was instantly pulled into past memories. When he picked up Jisoo's manuscript in school, and plunged into love, now they met again. He still had feelings for Jisoo. His friend noticed EJ's budding feelings, and mentioned that the girl was in the store every day. It is said she is a famous writer. EJ searched Jisoo's name online, and found that the day her novel had won an award happened to be the day he broke up with her. It turned out the envelope contained prize money from the competition. The man who sent Jisoo home was actually her older brother. EJ immediately went to the bookstore to find Jisoo's books. Although the novel was fictional, it drew inspiration from their own love story. Their love story. When EJ hadn't been crushed by society, he had made a promise to Jisoo that no matter how exceptional his rivals were, he would never let Jisoo go. Unfortunately, EJ broke his promise later, a few days before their breakup. EJ also bought a pen as a gift, hoping to tell Jisoo that I will always support your dreams, but unexpectedly, the gift was never given away, and he didn't witness the publication of Jisoo's novel either. The only thing EJ could do was to keep the coffee shop running, so that Jisoo could continue writing in a familiar surrounding. EJ even struck up conversations with Jisoo as a fan, and told Jisoo stories about the afterlife, packaging them as his own fictional ideas, and telling them to Jisoo in great detail. The more they talked, the more they got along. EJ wanted Jisoo to autograph, but Jisoo took out a familiar pen. It was the pen he hadn't given as a gift. It turned out that EJ's mother had seen the engraved pen after his death, so she passed it on to Jisoo, and Jisoo had been carrying it with her ever since. From that day on, the two became friends. EJ would tell Jisoo their own stories every day, and after listening, Jisoo raised a question. She asked why the protagonist of the story didn't visit his mother after coming back to life. EJ expressed in a bitter tone, maybe he didn't have the courage to face his mother. As they continued chatting, it became late. Jisoo said goodbye to EJ and left. Unexpectedly, it started raining heavily. EJ held up his umbrella and chased after Jisoo. He handed the umbrella to Jisoo and left in the pouring rain. Not long after EJ returned to the shop, he heard the sound of police sirens. A few customers who had just entered the shop whispered gossip that the girl involved in the accident visited this coffee shop frequently. Upon hearing this, EJ had a bad premonition, and rushed towards the car accident. The familiar red umbrella was lying on the roadside. EJ rushed over without any regard, but was stopped by the surrounding police. As he was extremely anxious, he suddenly found Jisoo across the street. Fortunately, it wasn't her who had the accident. Jisoo noticed that EJ's hand was bleeding profusely. EJ had been running so fast that his hand got cut by a cup. Seeing Gunwoo's anxious expression, she couldn't help recalling the day EJ attempted suicide, when she rushed to the hospital in a panic, only to learn about his death. EJ saw the pain on Jisoo's face, and it tore his heart apart. He finally realized the pain he had caused to those around him with his death. EJ followed Jisoo to the crematorium. Unexpectedly, he saw his mother there. So, EJ's mother hadn't died? The previous accident scene must have been a foreshadowing. EJ saw his mother crying in pain, but he didn't have the courage to approach her and offer comfort. In the name of Choy EJ Sr., he sent a sum of money to his family, claiming that it was earned through EJ's investments, and hoped to help his mother live a good life. EJ can see Jisoo every day now. He feels happy all the time. He can't understand why he wanted to seek death in the first place. Clearly, his family and loved ones were always by his side. EJ doesn't want to have any regrets. He doesn't know when this body might encounter an accident. So, he told Jisoo a love story, recalling the little moments of their love. After Jisoo listened to the story, she suddenly realized, the unfamiliar man in front of her is EJ. The male protagonist who died and died again, is not fictional. Just as the two of them were about to recognize each other, a red sports car came. The culprit got out of the car with a lighter. Surprisingly, the person was Tai Woo, the CEO of Taikang Group. EJ suddenly remembered, sponsoring J-Sub to parachute, bribing Tai Sang to take the blame. Tai Woo was the one who paid to have Jin Tai killed by the criminal syndicate. His several reincarnations were closely related. Jisoo had already died on the spot. Tai Woo didn't let go of the dying Gunwoo either. It turns out that it wasn't EJ's mother who died in the car accident, but it was Jisoo, who still deeply loved EJ. This episode's story ends here. The second half will be available online in January. For those interested in this drama, don't forget to click favorite, like, and follow. The man's actions provoke the displeasure of the Grim Reaper. It decides to give the man a punishment. After the man's whereabouts, he was once again pulled back by the god of death. The kind Grim Reaper decides to give the man a chance. If Kyle can defy fate and change his destiny in 12 cycles, he can continue living as that person. After that, he successively possessed the identity of a second-generation rich man, and an extreme athlete, a high school student, and even a baby. He also encounters his first love due to his reincarnations. Just as Kyle is about to reunite with his girlfriend, when he is ready to live well, he is unexpectedly killed by Tycho, a representative of a corporation. Kyle is horrified to discover that the death of each host is related to this rich second-generation individual named Tycho. Kyle can't wait to enter the next host's body. He plans to kill Tycho to avenge his girlfriend Jane. As soon as he wakes up, he realizes his hands are covered in blood. The enormous house is filled with paintings. A strong scent of blood fills the air. What on earth does this original owner do? Just as Kyle is puzzled, a memory crystal appears. The memories and abilities of the original host enter his body. The original host is named Jing Telsun, 34 years old. He has had innate artistic talent since childhood. Unfortunately, due to his poor family background, he was not recognized. It wasn't until Telsun witnessed an accidental death with his own eyes, that death ignited an unprecedented inspiration within him. Death and pain became his stepping stones. Telsun's works received great acclaim overseas. In order to ensure that this inspiration wouldn't fade away, Telsun embarked on the path of criminal murder. Innocent passers-by died one after another. Telsun's paintings became increasingly popular. There were a total of 15 painstakingly created masterpieces. Each painting represented a human life. At first, Kyle feels a wave of disgust. Then his confidence for revenge ignites. He wants to use Telsun, this demon, to kill the demon who harmed Jane. Kyle returns to the scene of the accident. He finds the pen that was dropped when Jane was killed. Before he died, he heard Tycho talking to his men.
아버지가 아시면 날 대표 자리에서 빼겠지?
그럼 안 되는데.
그니까 이거 네가 운전한 걸로 하자.
Tycho promised that if they could escape this disaster, he would let the subordinate who took the blame become the representative of a subsidiary company. Upon hearing Tycho's promise, he immediately removes the black box storage card and throws it into the sewer. Then he calls the police to turn himself in. Kyle gets angry when he recalls that night's events. Meanwhile, the corporation is holding its annual employee rally. The host stands on the stage and jokes. Through analysis and investigation of psychopaths, they are more likely to succeed in various fields, because they lack concern and empathy for others. They are genuine egoists. After the host finishes speaking, he wants to test Taiko. The host wants to see if he exhibits psychopathic traits, but the real psychopaths are actors. Taiko presents himself as a warm and approachable figure in the company. Kyle watches the televised broadcast. Suddenly, his nose starts bleeding, and he faints on the spot. After a medical examination, it is discovered that he has a brain tumor. Moreover, he has missed the optimal treatment window.
얼마나 살 수 있죠?
길어야 한 달입니다.
충분하네요.
Kyle plans to find Taiko's address first. He didn't expect Taiko to show up at his door. The gallery assistant contacts Kyle. Taiko wants to buy his unsold artwork titled Crimson Clouds. They immediately arrange to meet at the gallery. Taiko truly lives up to being a psychopath. He is immediately captivated by Telson's artistic style. Kyle considers taking the opportunity to kill Taiko when there's no one around. The reminder from the Grim Reaper echoes in his ears. If you attempt murder, I will intervene, says the Grim Reaper. Hesitating, Kyle misses the perfect opportunity. At that moment, the secretary comes and calls Taiko away. Kyle is left with no choice but to use the pretext of delivering the artwork. He asks Taiko to leave his home address. After Taiko leaves, he attends his younger brother's funeral. Leon has always cherished his younger son. If it weren't for his younger son's death in a plane crash, Taiko wouldn't have had the opportunity to inherit the company. Taiko watches the people around him cry. He imitates their expressions and squeezes out tears. But in reality, Taiko is the one who killed his younger brother. He can't suppress the violent tendencies within him. He has to rely on medication to maintain normalcy. Previously, he accidentally killed Jane due to an overdose of medication. At this moment, he is burning with anger and racing on the road. Two on-duty police officers quickly chase after him. However, the police cars are no match for Taiko's luxury car. Fortunately, road repairs ahead block Taiko's path. The young police officer notices his distracted look and trembling fingers. They suspect that Taiko has taken illicit drugs. They apprehend him. Upon hearing this, Taiko makes a call to the police station. He causes the young police officer to receive a scolding from his superior. Taiko still feels unsatisfied. He walks up and slaps the young police officer a few times. Taiko takes out a wad of cash and throws it on the ground. Then, he gets into his supercar and speeds away. As soon as Taiko arrives home, he notices a man loitering at the doorstep. He becomes somewhat displeased. However, Kyle intentionally steps on his sports car to clean his shoes. He even spits at Taiko. A rich second-generation individual like Taiko has never endured such humiliation. Without hesitation, he throws a punch. However, Telson has a strong physique. Taiko realizes that he is no match. He simply takes out a hunting rifle from his car. Taiko has never abided by the law. He doesn't value human life at all. After a gunshot, Kyle falls to the ground. Taiko is about to approach and confirm, but he realizes that the other person is playing dead. Kyle knocks down Taiko and rushes into the sports car. He steps on the accelerator and drives towards Taiko. Kyle taunts Taiko like a cat playing with a mouse. Kyle brushes against Taiko's body and stops the car. He unbuttons his shirt, revealing a bulletproof vest underneath. Then, Kyle kicks Taiko down with one foot. He ties up Taiko and takes him back to Telson's workshop. Unexpectedly, he suddenly collapses due to a brain tumor.
뭐야 저 새끼.
When Kyle regains consciousness, he realizes that he is tied up on the workbench. The roles of the two individuals instantly switch. Taiko approaches Kyle. He asks, "Would you like to hear the story of my first murder?" It turns out that the car accident that ruined Kyle's job interview was also caused by Taiko. Taiko picks up a chainsaw and swings it at Kyle. This time, his chance at a fresh start is dashed. But what Taiko doesn't know is that all of this is part of Kyle's plan. Since he cannot intentionally kill against the will of death, Kyle sets up the cameras in advance. He deliberately entices Taiko to kill him. To obtain solid evidence that he is a murderer, Kyle urges Death to quickly transfer him into a new body. He wants to retrieve the evidence to bring down Taiko. After a gunshot, Kyle regains consciousness in an unfamiliar body. Surprisingly, he has become the older of the two police officers. As the memory crystal appears, the original owner's life unfolds. His name is Kenan, aged 42. His father was also a police officer who died in the line of duty. Despite his mother's objections, Ken enrolled in the police academy. He caused his mother to fall critically ill and almost lose her life. Since then, Ken has promised his mother, no matter what situation he encounters, he will prioritize saving his own life. As a result, he became known as the famous coward of the police station. He never gets involved in dangerous cases. The young police officer was brutally beaten by Taiko. Ken had always watched coldly from the sidelines. However, his mother passed away not long ago. While he was still reviewing memories, there was a fight and brawl on the street. Surprisingly, the perpetrator was Andy, who killed Leo. Of course, Kyle couldn't just stand by. He quickly subdued Andy. Although the original owner Ken cherished his life, his combat skills were excellent. The video of him subduing the criminal quickly went viral. However, Kyle wasn't interested in fame. He takes the young police officer to Telson's house. Pens, black box memory cards and studio monitoring. They are all in their original positions. Kyle keeps Telson's murder records. However, he secretly copies Tycho's videos. Then he deletes the original files. The young police officer observes his subtle actions through the mirror. The search team quickly arrives at the scene. They collect DNA evidence of Telson's 15 consecutive murders. Meanwhile, Tycho becomes completely enamored with the thrill of killing. He is about to lure the secretary into Telson's studio. However, Tycho discovers that the villa is surrounded by police. To avoid suspicion, Tycho is forced to give up the game of killing the secretary. Kyle gains great fame for solving the serial murder case. He becomes famous overnight. Tycho sends someone to dispose of Telson's body. Then he orders his subordinates to eliminate Ken. On the other hand, the young police officer can't hold it in any longer. He asked Kyle about the deleted records after transferring. What is the secret inside? Kyle admits that they are videos of the person who killed Telson. The young police officer is shocked to hear that the serial killer was also killed. Why didn't Kyle immediately turn the evidence over to the police? Kyle explains that the culprit is Tycho. The influence of the organization has already corrupted the police department. If he were to hand over the evidence to his superiors, it would be useless. Therefore, he has already contacted the press. If nothing unexpected happens, the news report will come out tonight. While Kyle was speaking, he suddenly saw his mother. He asked and found out that she didn't accept the money. His mother reported to the police station and handed the money over to the police. Kyle felt very guilty. He secretly bought food and hung it in front of his mother's door. Unexpectedly, as he turned around, he was ambushed by Tycho's henchmen. On the other side, Leon is having a conversation with Tycho. He obtained the surveillance footage of the car accident from the police station. He knows that his eldest son is the one who killed the pedestrian in the hit-and-run accident. Leon is becoming increasingly afraid of his son, and he has a premonition. If one day he gets in Tycho's way, the other party will mercilessly kill him. Tycho's mood worsens after meeting his father. He can only go for a drive on the road to calm down. As a result, he encounters a disrespectful pedestrian who insults him. Tycho directly holds him down and stabs him wildly. Tycho's bloodlust becomes increasingly difficult to suppress. Coincidentally, the television station calls. They say that Detective Ken has provided a video. It can prove that Tycho killed Telson. The television station will do its best to block this scandal. They just need the group to take care of them regularly. Upon hearing this, Tycho immediately contacts his subordinates. He wanted to know if they had disposed of Ken. Unexpectedly, Ken's voice is heard on the other end of the phone. The henchmen were unable to deal with him. Tycho contacts the commissioner. He summons Kyle to his office for a conversation. He wants to use money and promotion to dismiss the matter. Of course, Kyle doesn't fall for it. He turns on the TV and watches the news. Unexpectedly, Tycho voluntarily turns himself into the police station. He admits to killing the serial killer Telson. The whole thing went through his packaging. Tycho becomes a hero who rids society of evil. Moreover, he claims that Telson had kidnapped him first. The murder videos were edited by the television station. As a result, Tycho is acquitted on grounds of self-defense. He wins a major victory. The entire group's stock prices soar. They also gain strong support from the entire nation. As for Kyle, just as he leaves the police station, he is immediately captured by Tycho's henchmen. Tycho believes he has achieved complete victory. In a blissful mood, he boards a plane bound for the United States. He takes a few sedatives and goes to bed. Unexpectedly, the entire aircraft starts shaking violently. The cockpit is empty. Then, an electronic male voice is heard over the intercom. It accuses Tycho of his crimes sentence by sentence, and it issues a warning that the plane is about to crash. If Tycho wants to stay alive, he must jump off the plane. He hurriedly grabs a parachute in the final 10 seconds countdown. Then he rushes out of the cabin, and clumsily falls onto the road. In the next second, a car approaches. Kyle walks unharmed towards Tycho. What exactly is going on? Do you all remember Alex, whom Kyle possessed before? He was once an assassin in a criminal organization. And coincidentally, that organization happened to work for Tycho. The criminal underworld always leaves a backup plan. While they serve the big shots, they also collect and retain evidence of various people's crimes. Kyle inherited Alex's memories, so he knows where those files are hidden. After obtaining these crucial pieces of information, Kyle, relying on Tycho's brother's memories, he swapped the psychotropic drugs Tycho had hidden in his pen for sleeping pills. The subordinates only catch a Kyle impersonator. He himself had already entered the cockpit through Alex's memories. After installing a bomb in the engine, Kyle switches the plane to autopilot and parachutes away. Kyle exposes all the evidence he gathered. By revealing it all on television, he succeeds this time. He relies on the memories of each host. Just as Kyle plans to avenge Jane himself, death suddenly arrives at the scene. She said that Kyle cannot defy the rules of the game. The male protagonist stopped at the last moment. He is ready to leave this realm of right and wrong. Tycho is taken to the hospital for emergency treatment. He had to amputate his lower limbs to barely survive. However, once he regains consciousness, he will face legal judgment. Since Kyle occupies Ken's body, he naturally continues to work as a police and carry out missions. Days pass by. He has already adapted to his current life. However, he doesn't know when death will come. It looms over Kyle's head. On that day, he almost died during an undercover mission. Fortunately, the young police officer intervened in time to save him. Kyle feels guilty when he sees the officer hospitalized. The daughter of the young police officer secretly tells him that she's very worried about her dad, because her dad always comes home with injuries. Upon hearing this, Kyle assures the little girl that he will protect her dad.
삼촌도 다치지 마세요.
However, as a police officer, getting injured is unavoidable. Accidents happen much faster than imagined. They were shot while chasing drug dealers. Kyle remembers his promise to the little girl. So, disregarding the danger, he throws himself towards the muzzle. He tackles the drug dealer and falls off a building. He loses another chance at rebirth. Kyle is satisfied with his actions. Death sneers at the scene, asks if he forgot who he is. The life you sacrificed was Ken's. Death pulls the trigger, and this time, Kyle is reborn as a beggar. The television station is reporting Ken's death news. Kyle decides to attend the memorial service, because both Ken and his son died in the line of duty. Prominent figures from all walks of life send wreaths. The Prime Minister also attends in person to mourn. However, none of this has anything to do with Kyle. He tries to comfort the young police officer, but is angrily rebuked. The memories of the previous 9 hosts flash through his mind. Kyle realizes that he cannot answer this question. Memories of his mother emerge. Kyle sees her in her teenage years. He sees her getting married. She bids farewell to her deceased husband, and the reason his mother wasn't crushed is solely because of Kyle's presence. Even after his mother was laid off from the factory, she never gave up on making a living. Kyle thought his life was already dark enough, but compared to his mother, it was a life of happiness. His mother persevered for him, while Kyle irresponsibly walked towards his death. He didn't consider the other person's feelings at all. That day, the woman received a call from the police station. When she went to claim her son's body, no one could understand how much pain she felt. But now Kyle knows.
잘못됐어요? 제가 누군가에게 피해를 준 것도 아니잖아요.
다시 생각해봐. 정말 피해를 준 게 없는지.
The words he once said, how ignorant and cruel he was. His death plunged his mother into hellish agony. And at this moment, this pain, it comes back to Kyle completely. He decides to live on as his mother. He sees it as the ultimate punishment from death. Kyle's mother is a janitor at a big company. She is one of the first people to wake up and squeeze into the subway. The entire building needs her to clean it. Her body can't handle so much physical labor. After a shift, her whole body aches, but the money she saves up from her hard work, she almost entirely saves in Kyle's housing savings account. She continued this habit even after her son's death. She didn't change this habit. Every time after work, the mother would visit Kyle's ashes. She even expressed her wish for her son to be born into a wealthy family in his next life. The mother hoped Kyle wouldn't live such a difficult life anymore. Kyle wanted to convey his apologies, but now it was too late for him to say anything. He planned to take his mother's body. He would fulfill the plan that had been put on hold. He would climb Mount Wufeng to see the beauty of his youth. However, Kyle forgot one thing. His body was no longer strong. He fell while descending the mountain. He rolled down to a secluded slope. Kyle's consciousness was hazy, but he knew he couldn't die like this, so he exerted all his strength to crawl towards the main road. Fortunately, someone found Kyle and took him to the hospital. He didn't let his mother die in the wilderness. After this incident, he had only one belief. That is, he helps his mother live well. In the blink of an eye, several decades passed. He had grown old with age spots covering his face and gray hair. Kyle never ceased to reminisce about his lost loved one. It wasn't until now that he understood the meaning of life. Kyle died of old age naturally. He returned to face death again. He put away his arrogance. He pleaded for another chance, to let him start anew as Kyle. Death said, "You have passed the test." He helped his mother complete her journey in life. Now she could give Kyle the final bullet. The familiar sound of a gunshot rang out. Kyle, standing on the rooftop, answered his mother's call. This season's story ends here. People, in the blink of an eye. We always miss some important people. We also miss some important things. In the fleeting moments of people's lives, many precious memories can disappear in an instant. It's better for us to focus on living in the present seriously. I believe that everyone will find their own beauty. If you like my channel, please subscribe to my channel.